Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Town Hall. I'm going to take a couple minutes here and give you an introduction to the evening as we wait for others to join us online. We are, of course, recording this as well, so it's available immediately after so that you can watch it tomorrow or the next day and come back to it regularly if you want to find out more information. We are broadcasting on 3 channels, so hopefully we have viewers here on the parent Facebook group. Otherwise, you're watching us on LinkedIn or you're watching us through our YouTube channel, all simultaneously. Please take a look at the comment sheet to the right and note that you can add a comment to the stream. I see it here, and then I'm able to put it up here. And there's our first one. Good evening, everyone from the ASW PTO. My pleasant, happy new year to all of you live now for the first time. I know I've written it in messages, but finally, we get together here in January, just after the beginning of the new calendar year. And I just want to wish you all a wonderful, happy new year. Equally, Shinyan Kwai La for the Lunar New Year that we just celebrated.
I'm just going to hand over to you and Peter.
Me? Okay, good evening.
Yeah, and just tell John when you want the slide to change.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome everyone. Technology, it's wonderful when it works. When it doesn't, we figure it out because we're creative professionals and it's a beautiful thing. Happy 2023. I am Kayla Bonka, the chair of the Board of Trustees at ASW. This is my second year. There's a lot of exciting work that's going on. We actually had a big all-day retreat last Saturday, and there's really important work surrounding key decisions and strategic implementation that's happening throughout the building and really working towards the future. And all of this is done to further the vision and mission of ASW and to make the school, our school, the best it can be for our students and our children. That said, we have several both appointed and elected positions coming up for the 2023 to 2024 school year. You will see a lot of this information has already been repeated in e-notes week after week, as well as in the weekly update. But we do want to share with you just some information in case you are interested in applying to be on the board, including an upcoming aspiring board member training on March 2nd, as well as deadlines for expressing your interest by March 3rd. And we are lucky to have Peter Hootie. He is currently filling our optional 12th seat. He has been instrumental for us to understand the history of our great school, and he has wide connections throughout our school and wider communities. And he is also playing a key role in our election season. So Peter, tell us what you're seeing so far this year and any other news you want to share with our community.
Of course. Thank you so much, Kay. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm the 12th member of the board. I've been on the board now for 7 years, and I'm extremely proud and happy and to be working with such an outstanding group of individuals over the course of the 7 years. I think this is a great opportunity for those who are interested to learn more about the school, how it's run, and contribute to it. And I think the various upcoming sessions that we will have and the past sessions which we had, I think gave you probably a good insight into the kind of tasks and responsibilities that will be you as a potential board member will be facing. So we'll be honored and happy to have you working with us. It's a great opportunity to learn more about the school. We have a couple of committees that you can join. It's governance, it's risk management, it's finance, it's advancement, and all those committees work together to make the school more efficient, a better place to for our kids, for our students. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. At this moment, I think we have a good group of individuals who are interested, and of course, the more the merrier. So please consider joining the group and contributing to the school.
And there are U.S. and non-U.S. positions, and we're pretty friendly, great group of people, trustees. We love talking about what we're doing and spreading the word. So there's a series of links at the board section in both the weekly update and the e-notes that will tell you more information about what we do and any links for further information and applying. And of course, we're here to answer questions as well. And we're really excited for the work that's ongoing and what we're doing in the future. And we need great people to carry on the amazing work, right, Peter? So
exactly. So great. Please, it's time well invested, and and I think you'll find a lot of joy in working with the school, with the staff, with the administration, and with the various out there, with the students as well, of course, teachers. It's been a super rewarding experience for me, which I would highly recommend for others to take advantage of.
Thank you, Peter. Yes. Hope to talk to you soon. Thank you all for listening and possibly for your interest. We'd love to have you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just, Kate, do you have Facebook open for any questions? I'm just trying to get in there, but I'm not. I'm just wondering
Okay,
if
so I will get right in. No problem.
Just in case someone from our audience may have some questions. Thank you. Sorry, I'm having a Facebook connection issue, so I can't get in.
Yeah, the comments are just the fact that they could hear you and they're hearing us. So that's
okay. Perfect. Okay.
I think, wait, there's a lot of comments. Yeah. And I think the earlier ones were the fact that people could not hear John. So we're
okay, good. Great. Well, thank you. And I do want to just take a moment and thank both of you, because really without all of you as a board and your constant commitment and attention to the work that we do, really we wouldn't be moving forward in our pathways to school improvement, to sustainability, to all the things that matter. So thank you. And it's a great opportunity to be able to do that and share this space tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Peter, of course.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, we are going to move on then to ASW for Ukraine. And John, I think if you can move our slide over, I think Ligita and team are going to be joining us. Yep, perfect. I am not able to bring them in. So I think from the background, there we go. Oh, there you guys are. Excellent. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I'll hand it over to you.
Good evening. Good evening. And we have students also joining. Is it possible to bring students in?
There they go. Thanks you guys for joining. This is so exciting.
So thank you very much. Well, we have a couple of updates about Lipova. The most important thing is we are open and we have again, a lot of people coming to receive support and receive humanitarian aid. And I guess I will just pass it to Beatrice and Mathilde. They can tell us what Saturdays look like and what happens in Lipova on a regular day too.
So normally people just wait until Lipova opens on a line, and then they start coming in by groups. And we go to the back and prepare some stuff to give.
What kind of stuff, Beatrice, you guys give away?
We separate maybe tea bags, we separate the toilet paper, we organize a bunch of stuff. We organize the clothes, and sometimes we help hand them out. It really depends on the day.
You guys sometimes make treats and bake brownies, I believe, and then you give to people.
I bake gingerbread cookies before Christmas, and yeah, we sometimes bake stuff and bring them on the Saturdays, and then we give them out to the people waiting outside.
Thank you. And I know that it is Iris also joins Saturdays, and she helps in Lipova. But Iris, can you tell us also what we do in school, how we, other students who they cannot always come to Lipova, but what can they do? For example, on Fridays, what we guys do?
So I know that high school has other opportunities, but at least in middle school, the main thing that people do to help out Ukrainians is there's a club called Warriors for Warsaw, which I'm part of. And a lot of what we do to help Ukrainians is the donations that come to the school have to be sorted and then brought to Lipova. So we'll put them in bags of, say, toys and clothes and shoes, and then bring them out to Miss Ligita's car, and then she drives them to Lipova.
Sometimes, yes, happens, and it's a lot of work. So thank you for all the donations from the ASW communities. Something that you don't use always gets picked in Lipova, and people really, really appreciate all the toys and clothing and all the food donations, of course, too. So thank you very much. And we have some really fun ideas about merchandising our Lipova, and maybe James can tell us a little bit about this idea. He came up with this idea, and would you give us a little bit of a update, James, on progress?
Okay, so for ASW for Ukraine in our school, I'm currently planning on making merchandise to sell to the community. I think for right now, the stickers are fully designed and printed, and I'm currently working on mock-ups and hoodies. They are still on design process and still being waiting for order. So I think people can be excited to buy merchandise and help donate the ASW for Ukraine project through this way. I'm very excited to be part of this great project. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you for wonderful, wonderful designs. I can tell you that they were voted. So we had a couple of ideas, and then we asked people around what they thought would most reflect what we do in ASW for Ukraine. So we have the winner, and we're ready to move forward with this. So thank you, James. Heidi, do you want to talk maybe about some other exciting plans that not happening right now, but they're in progress and working hard on putting this into place?
Yeah. So hi everyone. Sorry, I hear a lot of echo there. So hi everyone, I'm Heidi. I'm part of the UNHCR Young Champions Club. So it's a high school group where we meet on Tuesdays, and we just a bunch of us just organizing stuff for donations for ASW for Ukraine. And we've been doing a lot of fundraisers recently. So before the December break, we were doing bake sales for example, the elementary school concerts and Les Mis, the high school play. But right now, we're in the process of organizing a field day for Ukrainian children. So for refugees who are coming into the ASW for Ukraine Center. And yeah, so we've planned a lot of activities like arts and crafts, hearing music, decorating cookies. And yeah, it's going to be scheduled for springtime. Thank you.
So I'm back, everybody. Apologies for the technical difficulties here. I hope you can hear me now. Ligita, keep going. This is all great stuff that ASW for Ukraine is doing. Let's add more to it. Anything else?
Yes, we have some really exciting news, but before that, I will also add to the program that we have working with the school in Taiwan. There is a group of students who help organize a language program for the Ukrainian refugee children. So Amanda, unfortunately, was not able to join us during this meeting, but she's working with a group of students, and they ready to move and learn a lot of English. So this is also very, very exciting. And then there is the big exciting news, and maybe Mr. Zurklo will present and will announce this to the students, and they don't know anything about it.
Which is great, because I want to surprise you. So what you guys may not know is that in the background, and you know this to some extent, there have been eyes on us from around the world. We have not been alone in our efforts. You know, the fundraising has gone on. We're well past the $300,000 measure now, and that's probably the largest fundraising effort in ASW's entire history. But more than that, we've been a model for the rest of the world in the way in which we've created partnerships, both within the school community and beyond the school community. And as a part of international schools talking to each other and learning from each other, there's a thing called the ISC International School Awards. This is a research organization that looks at schools around the world, studies thousands of them, and then opens up a competition effectively for schools to share their good work and compete with each other for recognition of the things that they're doing. And we are excited to announce here tonight on live stream that ASW has been recognized as the Community Partnership Award for ISC. There were hundreds of schools that were applicants from around the world for multiple categories, and ASW was awarded yesterday as the school of choice from around the world for doing the most significant work in community partnership. And that's all due to your efforts, because it's you kids that have managed and led this from the beginning. Everything from the first clothing drives and the boxes in the hallways all the way through to our fundraising efforts, Lipova Center, our partnership with the mayor on the boundary of Poland, our continued efforts into Ukraine, and our support of refugees throughout the city of Warsaw, and our donations from partners around the world, including the Rotary Club, which is now stepping up with a donation that we should see at the end of the month. They're sending us $50,000. And so our work continues on, and the support for it continues on from around the world. And you guys get to just like cheer and shout right now and say, yay, because we won. Miss Ligita, Miss Agnieszka, do you want to weigh in on the kind of what comes from here with ISC and how we're going to push this out to the community, and just make sure that everybody knows what we've accomplished here as an entire community? We wanted to make this big announcement tonight, but more is coming. Anything you want to add to the puzzle here?
All I want to add is that congratulations to all of you. I'm talking to students and everybody who is involved in the project, because we are very, very proud. I remember the first time when we heard about the competition, we were sending the pictures and the video, and there's an article written by Ms. Ligita and Mr. Zerflu, and it's going to appear in the magazine, this ISC research magazine, which when it's there, we'll share it across the various channels with our community. But I just want to say that it wasn't an easy task. There were about 300 other nominations. So, we are among the winners. There were a few winners, like in different categories. But yes, we made this one, and we are really, really proud. In today's e-notes, there's a little bit of information about the award, and there will be more because we'll be putting it across our website, across our social media, because we are proud and we want the world to hear about it. Good job. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everybody take a bow for that, and be sure to pass this on to your classmates tomorrow and let them know about this wonderful honor that's been bestowed upon us by a panel of experts that were brought in to judge all of the submissions. And of course, we were submitting on your behalf for all of the great work that you're doing and that you're going to continue to do in the future, because we know we're not done yet. We know that we still have a community in desperate need. We know that we will be transitioning at some point in hopes of transitioning to a recovery and a rebuilding period. And so I know that our energy and efforts here and what we've learned through this process will propel us into the next level of work that will necessarily follow in the months and potentially years to come. So thank you for setting the stage for this and for everything that we're doing. Again, community partnership, us, parents, the wider community here in Warsaw, and the community around the world. It's a true testament to what we can do when we reach out to all of our friends to say, help us, let's work on this together. And so say that to all of your friends, get all the grade levels involved, keep up your efforts. It sounds like there's lots of things on tap in the coming days and weeks. Parents who are watching out there, we just continue to reiterate that we're excited about this project and continuing our work on it. There's congratulations coming in. Bravo, go Warriors. all these great things that are coming that I think are important to recognize how important this hard work is and what it is that we're accomplishing. I also want to just suggest that we're going to continue this effort on. Please continue to communicate it out through your social media channels. Parents, if you want to volunteer at the Leap of Us Center, there's things in e-notes every week guiding you on the best way to do that, or just make a phone call to Miss Legita and she'll guide you on how best to help out. Follow our website and our channels, our Instagram channel, to get more information as well. Is there anything I've left out, Miss Legita?
Thank you to all. Thank you. We welcome everyone and all to volunteer, to help contribute, to learn together. And this is a wonderful place with great atmosphere and a lot of fun. Students can also confirm that it's a lot of fun on Saturdays too.
Lots of congratulations coming in on the Facebook channel. So thank you so much for your participation here tonight and always. Kids, I'll let you sign off at this point. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all the bits and bobs of your projects. I know we'll have you back often in the future. We're really excited about this. So have a wonderful evening. And thank you, Legita and Agnieszka, for joining us tonight and making sure that we're on the right path.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, Miss Melissa, I had a staggered start here. Are we going to recover?
We're going to recover. We're going to recover. And the most important news is just watching our warriors do what our hope is, which is to change the world for the better and live our mission. And this is a perfect example of what our work hopefully is trying to create and facilitate in our students, and they're leading the way. So really exciting.
Very much so, very much so. And in the true spirit of bounce back, I found my way back into the stream.
Yes, you did. You bounced back.
Now that I'm back in. Why don't you stay with me and we'll welcome Dr. O to join us for just a few minutes before we get into the meat of our discussion tonight. Dr. O, you're in the house.
Hi, good evening. Congratulations for the award. Wow.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad you're on channel there to see us.
I heard it, I saw it, and you know, what a testament to what you guys have been doing for the past, you know, many years. I mean, this effort around Ukraine is absolutely unique and spectacular. But you know, anything that you have done in the past is also spectacular. So it's just a continued you know, stream of successes and hard work and recognition for this hard work of you know, the leadership team and all the students and the whole community.
Absolutely. And those partnerships extend to your assistance as well. We have you know, a wonderful partnership with you at Warsaw Med. The partnership is continuing to grow and develop here, but we wanted to give you at least a few minutes tonight to give us an update on the status of the class. We seem to have survived the flu bug that came through in December. I know that many of the kids fell to that virus going around. We have seen a resurgence of a couple, 2 or 3 COVID cases, no seriously concerning numbers at this point. We do want to just continue to encourage families to keep us posted as they identify cases. And certainly we're still testing at school where we have symptoms that suggest we should check. But anything else you want to share with us? I was interested in some of the news pieces, obviously, in recent weeks on variants and also a seemingly FDA shift to what we've always predicted, which is more annual aspect to vaccination and protection.
Sure. So I think, you know, we have this what they call tridemic, or, you know, kind of a multi-epidemic right now going on with the flu, the RSV, and COVID taking their toll around Poland. I think we're past the peak. So when you look at the flu numbers, which have been quite accurate, and, you know, as much as COVID is not really counted, RSV is not counted or not registered, flu is actually registered, and we are past the peak. We're still, you know, this is a record season in the history of Poland, or from whenever the data is available. So so far, kind of season to date, so starting in October, we have had the highest number of cases in Poland in the history. And I think on top of this, again, we had this RSV, we had COVID. Fortunately, very few, I would say, very severe cases around. Fortunately, this is not kind of the morbidity is not transferring to or corresponding to kind of severity of the disease. So it's just, regular kind of morbidity that we had in the past. It's just more of it. Because we're just a little bit less immune due to all the lockdowns and the kind of lack of exposure to the various pathogens. There's probably the new mutants also, playing their role. And obviously we have quite a few now in COVID. With the flu, we also have kind of, even the avian flu kind of coming back around some, here and there. We have the H1N1. But let's say, I think the practical message for the ASW community is, whenever you or your family member is ill, or whenever the child is ill, do not send them to school.
Yeah. And we've reminded in a couple of iterations.
And we remind again, it's not a question of again of severity of the cases, but it's just a question of infectiousness and the numbers that again we've had this December wave kind of plowing through ASW. Now we want to avoid it in the spring, and this will be again, there will be another wave coming for sure. So as much as we don't want to introduce any measures like masks, okay, whoever feels comfortable obviously wearing masks, please do so. But again, whenever anybody is ill, stay at home. That's, I think, the best way to protect yourself, first of all, and to make sure that you are recovered quicker. And secondly, it protects others.
And to be clear, that's really not a change in policy.
It's not a change in policy.
We've had that in our health manual for an extended period of time, long before COVID. But it becomes more poignant with COVID and other variants on the table. It becomes something that's really important for us to consider. I know we have a tendency, even as adults, that if it's sniffles or something, we say to ourselves, "Oh, it'll just pass. I'm going to go ahead and stick it out." And we really have to change that mindset that has been there for so long and say, maybe it's better to take that 24 hours to make sure that a test or something else can confirm that you're not going to be infectious to others. And we do encourage, and we still see around the building, individuals wearing masks less to protect themselves from others who might be infectious, but as a protective factor if they're feeling symptoms and not wanting it to share with others. So you're really protecting the community by making that choice, which is a flip on the equation from when we were all wearing masks together to protect the whole community. So again, we just encourage those kinds of things and thinking about it. We've got some wellness things that we've been talking about on tap. Do you want to put any plugs out for things that might be on the horizon here in the coming weeks?
Yes. So first, before I go into kind of wellness, preventative wellness, I did put out a little teaser in December that we will be doing optional testing for vitamin D3 levels. So vitamin D3 is, it's an important parameter of immunity, usually neglected. I think a lot of us think that we're getting enough vitamin D3 via supplementation, but more often than not, I see, unfortunately, that the vitamin D3 levels are suboptimal, especially during the autumn, winter, early spring season. So we will be doing optional testing. It will be, most of the time, we will be able to do it from a finger prick test. So we have a partner lab which is doing a dried blood spot analysis for vitamin D3. So It's quite convenient because it's just a finger prick. It's virtually painless. All it takes is 5 or 6 drops of blood. So I encourage you, if you would like, stop by the nursing station, and the nurses, as of next Monday or the coming Monday, they will be equipped to run the test for you.
So we'll run a reminder in weekly and let everybody know about this.
Yes, we will make a reminder.
Yeah. And again, this is optional. Parents would just self-select. They can pop into school at any point in time, drop by the health office and ask them about the details, get ahead with it. They'll walk you through the procedure.
We will walk you through the procedure. Also open for kids, obviously. So if you'd like your children to get tested as well, we are happy to do that. And we will be providing, based on the results, a personalized recommendation for each one of you in terms of the dosage. Because, sometimes some people think, okay, so I will just take 10,000 units per day.
Yeah, and this is the problem, is that's also very different depending upon age and a whole bunch of
and you don't want to, you don't want to overdo it either. So I think knowing the level and kind of responding appropriately with appropriate daily dose is important.
Brilliant.
The second area of wellness, which I am very fond of, and which we will be introducing more of, is around building good habits for life. Good habits, especially around nutrition, exercise, and sleep. Okay. So I heard a very interesting analogy recently about life. Okay. So our body is a little bit like a car.
Okay.
And the car drives on a road. The road is our life. And the road is straight, sometimes with a few curves, but it ends in a cliff.
Oh.
Okay. Now, the faster you go, obviously, with the car, the faster you will get to the cliff. Not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
The lower you go, the later you will reach the cliff.
Okay.
Good thing. Okay.
Good thing.
So you want to introduce as many things that reduce the speed of the car.
Okay.
Okay. So you have some things you do in life which will press the gas pedal.
Right.
Like sugar, diet in general, but sugar, fat. Okay.
Okay.
The other one will be sleep. Okay. So poor sleep, less than 7 hours.
Okay.
Then exercise. So less than kind of 30 minutes per day. And then you will have these, things that will press the brake. Okay. So this will be good sleep. So between 7 and 9 hours.
Maybe even more than the break. We're talking pit stop here.
Sometimes pit stop. Then, no sugar, basically. So no simple sugars in our diet.
Right.
Lots of fiber, lots of vegetables, especially green vegetables. Very little meat. Okay. And some white meat, preferably turkey. So just the one with the kind of whatever is necessary to get your protein, but not much more. So no red meat at all.
Okay.
And then exercise. So at least 30 minutes per day. And then you have other things which we can do later in life. A little bit later in life means kind of our age.
Okay.
So things that will put the brakes on how fast your brain reaches the cliff, because sometimes your body may not reach the cliff, but the brain will reach the cliff earlier.
Right.
So you want to do things that will slow down this speed of your brain getting to this cliff, like meditation, like, again, exercise. Interestingly, cardiovascular exercise has been shown to trigger the release, in addition to dopamine, serotonin, and noradrenaline, which are the kind of the happy and the happy hormones, the happiness hormones. Cardiovascular exercise increases the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factors, so this BDNF. This is an enzyme which is released in the brain, which actually stimulates and causes the formation of new neurons in the brain.
Growth, of course.
So not just growth of existing neurons,
but new.
But actually the emergence of new neurons.
Wow.
This is very, very recent research, because normally we kind of think, okay, whatever neurons we have, this is like the one tissue that does not grow new cells. You know, skin grows new cells, kidney grows new cells, blood grows new cells every 90 days. But neurons, they just die. Now we know cardiovascular exercise actually causes this release of BDNF, and this BDNF causes the formation of new neurons in the brain, especially the hippocampus.
Okay.
This kind of this CPU of our brain, which is basically responsible for formation of new memories, for kind of cognitive work, creativity, etc. Cardiovascular exercise, not strength, but cardiovascular, important. 30,
getting the heart rate up.
Heart rate zone 2. Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
On the other hand, strength is the single most important factor which predicts mortality at any age. So which predicts your risk of death at any age, okay, past 60, okay, before it's less important. But so the people who are strong, so kind of in the 10th percentile, have 400% less risk of dying of any cause, not just falls, not just broken bones, but of any cause mortality, than people who are in the bottom 10%.
Stands to reason. It's a basic preparedness for
So quite interesting.
But I think if we're going to switch it back though and talk about it within the context of kids, it's about, and this is our wellness discussion that we had, it's about building the healthy habits
at the
early stages of life. So I know our PE program is working on cardiovascular aspects of health. I know that, the sports that we put on are about giving kids additional opportunities to have those cardiovascular exercise opportunities. And the many kids are also involved in things outside of school as well. But the core is, can we do enough that it builds it as a habit that they can take into life?
Exactly.
And I think that's where the wellness aspect of us looking at this, we can talking about this more and more with kids. I particularly value the sleep quotient because I've done a lot of study and research on this, particularly as it relates to kids. And, we really need to put a focus on that. And it's always about this time of year, as we come out of winter and the light starts to come back, that we start to see the sleeping patterns slip again. We need to talk to the government about getting rid of this daylight savings time thing too.
Daylight savings time is
The medical research is pretty clear on the disruptive nature of that to sleep. I have a thought, and I think you and I kind of loosely talked about this. I haven't floated it to my team yet, but I had on my to-do list from last year the discussion around of sleep month, of sleep focus month. And I was kind of looking towards March and saying, could that be a month where we focus on everybody doing the very best that they can to get that good night's sleep? For just a 1 month period of time, be absolutely rigorous about bedtimes and wake up times and devices, putting them aside and the amount of time so that you can settle and go to sleep, and what it means to have a sleep pattern and an ability to fall asleep, and all of the other things that go with that are very individual in nature. But I think we should talk about having a sleep focus and get that piece started as well.
Critical. And, I think kind of the more we know, the more we realize that it's not any particular factor which is kind of the most important, but it's all of them combined together. So everyone is kind of giving you something, but if you do just strength and not cardiovascular, it's not going to be enough. If you do just sleep and not
Mhm.
cardiovascular, it's not going to be enough. So I think, as you
Gotta be
say,
a bit of everything. Yeah.
it's about these habits, like, we have been taught since we were very, very young to brush our teeth in the morning, in the evening, and then after every meal. uh, and I'm kind of trying to think if there's any way of getting this additional habit that, we wake up, we brush our teeth, and then we do a 30-minute walk.
Ah, there you go. Link it to something.
Cool. Link it to
Great
something.
strategy.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And so and then, then after the walk, we have we always say that, for example, breakfast has to be healthy. Whatever
Yeah.
comes next, that's fine. But at least for breakfast, we have oatmeal, let's say.
There you go. There you
And
go.
whatever comes, lunch, dinner, whatever. But at least, because that's one meal that we almost always will have at home. So that's something where there's no excuse to kind of grab something, rubbish.
Mm-hmm. And that brings an interesting point to emphasize to the audience that you and I have a target to start looking at nutrition around the school in the coming weeks. And so we've got effectively a little bit of a reflective audit that we're going to be doing. I think you're coming out to join me for lunch here at some point so that we can talk to the cafeteria, begin scrutinizing more how we might want to incrementally. Yeah. Well, great. Lots of plans on the horizon. You made it through a semester with us. We've got our first semester under our belt.
Oh, that's right.
That's Friday. Right. So we're halfway through and really looking forward to exciting things on the horizon.
We are too.
Yep. We'll push out vitamin D optional testing on Monday again and remind people how to get to that. And then we'll keep informing the community on these other initiatives.
On these other things. We also will be offering other testing. So again, optional testing, but things that matter, that matter for you, for your kids, for your loved ones at home. I'm passionate about the topic again of healthy lifestyle, of wellness, and of of monitoring things, but that matter, because sometimes you go to this Medicover and others, and they kind of tell you, okay, so here is this panel, you do it for 900 zloty and you will know everything. But then you don't actually know anything because you have just the numbers, but you don't know how to interpret it. And then some of the numbers, they don't really, they don't really mean anything.
Yeah.
So why would you do them? Like, why would you do total cholesterol and then LDL if you are not doing apolipoprotein B, which is really the one marker that predicts, heart disease and cardiovascular disease. So there's a lot of things. We do this, and nobody really cares about apolipoprotein B, which has been around forever. But the medical community has not caught up, because again, everybody is so used to total cholesterol and LDL and HDL and triglycerides.
Yeah, and it's all written into all of the guides, so you have to kind of rewrite those and think about how we
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Dr. O, thank you again for joining us tonight and giving us the latest update. As always, we look for your insights and your knowledge in order to help guide us and continue the pathway forward.
It's an honor and pleasure. And again, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you, Dr. O.
All right, Miss Melissa, we still got some more stuff to get done here. What do you think we take it on and see how fast we can go through it? And then people can watch it and slow it down later, but we'll pick up like chipmunks here and see what we can get done.
All right, let's see.
We still got our audience with us. They're sticking with us. The number hasn't changed, so we can keep going for a little bit.
Well, I think what we have for you this evening is really, really interesting, hopefully informative, and an opportunity for you to look into some of the key projects that we are working on. We're going to go ahead, I think, start with Terrace Metrics. So before we get into actually sharing some results with you, we felt it was really important as a community that you see what we're looking at in terms of overall. I do want to say thank you to everyone who has participated in making sure that this Terrace Metrics project gets underway and with some good grounding. Our counselors have been fantastic. Our parents, thank you so much for your willingness to engage in this new instrument that has given us some really good insight to behavior health. Our teachers who've also were really, really supportive, and our kids who did the work and did some really good thinking and good reflection as they entered into this process. and our administrators as well, because they've been really supportive in terms of looking at the data and having some great discussions about what our next steps are. So again, it's a community effort. Thank you all. I do, just as we prepare to give you a peek into what we're seeing, I just want to remind everybody that this survey, this assessment survey, is all about us learning about our kids from a behavior health perspective, but absolutely not through any kind of medical lens, any kind of psychological lens. That this whole instrument has not, it is not about diagnosing anything. Everything that we learn, the indicators that I'm going to quickly unpack, are all aligned specifically to the impact potentially that any result may have on the students' engagement in their own learning. So there's just potentially some kind of influence that could be preventing them from doing their best learning. So that's really, when we look through this, that's the heart of this particular set of results. We did, if you see on the screen, we took a look at some key indicators that we thought were going to be really pertinent and interesting for us for the first time around. You see here that we had global life satisfaction, which is really about our kids' sense of their overall feeling and attitude about where they are right now in their life, that positive negative continuum. We looked at school victimization, so the idea of bullying and where kids may be either in having been bullied or possibly contributing to bullying. We looked at social ostracism, and that was really an important one for us to look at in terms of social isolation, especially with our efforts to ensure all of our kids belong and are part of the community. So that was a really important one. And then hope, which was also something that we felt that was really important in kids' ability to set goals and engage in that and be motivated towards that. Those indicators were very specifically for kids 3, 4, and 5 in elementary, and then across all of our upper school. And then in terms of just 6 through 12, we had a slightly different set for them that are certainly gauged for the older child. We looked at grit. I know that for many of you in our parent community, that grit score raised a lot of questions. Grit really is all about commitment and tenacity, staying true to any particular project. We're having some great discussions about that and what that means in school and for the kids, especially in an environment where we want them to try many things and to really learn that there's a variety of options out there. So great discussions going on about that. Generalized anxiety. So this one was actually, we didn't go deeply into the depression and some of the more intense indicators, but just a general sense. We looked at resiliency, so their ability really to have those inner resources to jump hurdles and handle the adversity that comes with uncertainty and the unknown. Leadership, which was another one, their own sense of where they are in terms of influencing others. Our personal standards, and that really again is their own sense of their personal abilities and the standards that they set for themselves and how they kind of maneuver around that. And then last but not least was self-criticism and the ability for them to consider who they are in terms of making mistakes, being able to use any kind of failure as a learning experience. And so this is really, when we take a look at these, we were able to get some general big picture view of our kids across all of these indicators. And what we're going to show you tonight is really the overall of all of them, a conglomeration, so that we get a big picture view of how our kids fared. John, I think if you move to the next one.
But before we go, I just want to reinforce that this is all part of strategic work that we adopted in this inclusion area. So I appreciate what you're saying about how the real connectedness of this to the school context, and that this tool really is about understanding kids within a school setting in measures that we don't typically look at, that are important to understanding what the barriers to their learning and their feelings of inclusion and safety may be like within a school setting. And so it's important stuff to look at that we've potentially done informally, but it gives more of a formal edge to it. So we can really look at that through this lens of strategic work of making a safe, affirming, and welcoming place at ASW. But let's take a look at what we've got in terms of levels.
Yeah, that's a great point. So important that you note that it's really sitting in something that's big, and us leaning into growing new opportunities to learn more about our students. As we do show you the scores, all of you have had access when you looked at your children's reports, and teachers, while teachers don't have direct access to the individual, we are all looking at any of the results through these lenses. And so we've got the at-risk, which very much is, while it is red and it appears to be very alarming, it really does tell us that there's something we need to dig into, that something is going on that is inhibiting the student from doing their best learning. We then move into moderate concern, which there is some kind of impact to functioning, and not certainly as maybe worrisome as the at-risk, but something that we need to maybe try to understand. The students may want to understand more. Satisfactory and optimal, of course, are going to tell us our kids are right where we want them to be, and are continuing to grow across a variety of those indicators. So that's how we're going to look at it tonight. And we are going to show you the overall resilience wellness score. So again, it's the conglomerate of all of it. We have a 3 to 5 view. We have a 6 to 8 view, and then we have the 9 to 12 view. John, do you want to jump into maybe 3 to 5? And
you got it on the screen.
Oh, sorry. I thought maybe you were going to share. Okay, great. I'll jump in. Maybe you do 6 through 8. Okay, we'll dance it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So
all right,
you've got the resiliency scales here. So let's go ahead and talk about the comparisons.
Yeah, and let's clarify that. So we did have the opportunity as a community, when we looked at some of our own data charts, we were able to see how our kids were within the school, and some of our comparisons gave us access to across grade levels, the different age ranges. We were able to also see gender, and we were able to also take a look at new students versus returning students. This particular piece is looking at our kids to what Terrace Metrics has provided, which is basically their mean scores that they have taken from another cohort of students, most of which come from the US. There are a few schools out in the international market, but most are coming from the US. So we're able to take a look at our students compared to kids in the same grade, kind of like age, if you will. So you can see here that in grades 3 to 5, we have just some really great results in terms of our students being in the satisfactory category and in optimal. So we've got 82% of them really, really in a great, great place. Only one of our students placed in at risk in those grade level bands. So that was, I think, a really positive. Certainly we are going to be thinking about that one child, but overall it's really positive in terms of the whole group. We had this distribution, as you can see, very much the positive end. 8% are actually higher than the cohort that Terrace Metrics is doing the comparison against. So that really speaks to our kids being in a sound place, being their best learners, and it just gives us some really good information overall. The resiliency mean scores are higher in the cohort. You can see that across. So that also is just, again, there's a sense of, oh, good, our kids are in a good place. Especially when we think about these scores coming right off of the heels of COVID and the disruption that our kids experienced, especially the little people, over the last few years. So that, again, gives us that sense of, good, things are going in the right direction. Our mean ostracism score was equivalent to the cohort. So that was actually interesting. So being able to consider the ostracism piece and what does that mean for us? Again, that goes down that the notion of feeling part of, belonging. And I think last but not least, really, we are looking at students are placed in optimal category. Rather, more of them are in optimal than are at the at-risk place. So some good information when we take a look at 3 to 5.
Great. And again, just generally reinforcing the fact that our kids are doing well, and gives us at the same time some insight into some things we may want to do programmatically, tweaks to our counseling and other kinds of things that we do in classrooms that might tease out some of these ideas well within the bounds of our program of inquiry and some of the transdisciplinary skills that we're teaching already, but emphases might change and focuses might emerge as a part of looking at this. Let's go 6 through 8.
So as we take a look through 6 through 8, we also always have to remember the developmental nature of our kids. We think of a lot of things when we look at any scores. This set is slightly different than 3 to 5. It is middle school, as you're aware. And so what we were looking at is 45% satisfactory and 4% optimal. So that was really interesting. Certainly there's a change in terms of the overall as related to resilience and wellness. 5% of our kiddos placed in at-risk across 6 through 8. And our distribution, really, it approached the midpoint of resiliency and wellness in terms of the continuum, but we are higher than the cohort. So that's also something interesting and certainly better. That's a good thing. It's a positive, but it tells us maybe something about where middle school kids might be right now, overall in general. But it also does invite us to ask our own questions. You know, how are our kids in middle school doing, and what might these scores mean for us? Across resiliency, we were higher than the cohort. The mean ASW ostracism score, it was actually lower than the cohort. So again, that's better overall. There, it speaks to our community, the inclusive aspect to it.
Mhm.
We're certainly believing in that because we know our kids. We also have, in terms of our students placing in the optimal category, there are more of them there than those that are at risk. So when we think of a bell curve and where kids fall, it's good to see that there are less on that end that would be at risk.
Mhm.
And then I think the other one that really came out, again, as noted earlier, the grit scores, the hope scores, those really were the areas where we were seeing some of the at-risk areas. And so Terrace Metrics is just suggesting that we consider how can we start to be thinking about our curriculum and our instruction, the practices around how we can continue to grow those areas. So just a little bit of an opportunity there when we look at the data.
And the tier 1 and the tier 2 strategies, to be clear, is things that Terrace Metrics offers us that we can look at incorporating into our instruction in classrooms and in our sessions in various settings that might be appropriate to covering those topics. Things that we can consider, but also, you know, our counseling program and our health review have already made suggestions on some of those things that we can adjust as well. But it does give us some materials to be looking at and some other success results from other schools that they've used to tackle these areas when they see things that can be a focus of attention. And again, it's helping to inform that. How about 9 through 12?
Yeah, so 9 through 12, similar to our middle school scores in terms of 45% satisfactory, higher, a little bit higher, 3% in the optimal category. And we really had only 3% in terms of this band placing in the at-risk category. And then as we look at the distribution, kind of that bell curve again, there's being at the midpoint, but we are higher than the cohort. So again, as there, it's not a direct comparison because we may have slightly different characteristics and traits in our population than those taken, but it certainly represents a wide continuum, and it just it's helpful to note that we can compare ourselves and get a sense of the strengths that our kids are showing in our community. And again, rather other than hope and grit, the resiliency mean scores were at or higher than our cohorts. So again, hope and grit, something that we are being invited to think a little bit about them and what we want to do within our curriculum to be able to support our kids in these areas. I say support, but you can see from the data that there is not a huge community flag, that overall, we've just got a large portion of our kids, 6 through 12, almost half that are doing satisfactory and optimal. And then again, of course, you've seen elementary where we've got over 80%. So the one thing to note, again, this is an overall view into these scores. This is something we are able to share with our community. We want you to be able to see this. We will, John, I think you can go to the next slide. It really is a next step slide. But I do want to speak to our whole community in terms of what we're doing in terms of sharing out this data. So our first step is with you this evening. We will be sharing the same view with the board and talk, through a slightly different lens, especially since this is linked to our strategic work. In terms of our teachers, we are planning on our next steps in terms of sharing all of this data with them to have some conversations at the big picture level. Just a reminder that individual student data is still only and will remain visible and accessible to counselors and to principals. And that is it's part of the confidentiality clause that we signed when we took this particular program on. And parents, and I should say, and parents, you are the only stakeholders who have access to this data. And so that will just continue to be the case in order to just honor the confidentiality. And therefore, as we do continue to share this data, especially at the teacher level, there will be that conversation around what do the big results tell us and what do we need to do within our curriculum. So we'll be looking at our curriculum. We are in the process of beginning our health curriculum review. So that's looking at all of our health standards and what our scope and sequence of learning looks like across a variety of strands there. This would be one of those areas that will be embedded into that study. So hopefully we will be coming out on the other side very soon with some clear next steps towards incorporating some aspect of this kind of work into the curriculum. There are things that are already there. It comes with our frameworks. That is just part of our program, but we will have an opportunity to be able to link it to our own findings. And just again, another quick note that this went out, I believe, in terms of our newsletters, but our counselors have been fantastic. They were able to just jump into any scenario where our kids showed an overall at risk across all indicators. That was our number one focus in terms of supporting families and kids. And so they were able to do that across all three of our schools, elementary, middle, and high. And again, our teacher leaders have been exposed to this big picture data, and our teachers are next. And then those conversations will lead us to determining our next steps for the second administration.
I'll echo and just reinforce that this sending the report to the parents is meant to also encourage parents to have dialogue with their children about the results. It's not meant to be kept from the kids. It's just that it's focused on the parents, sharing that within a family context and having good conversations around that data, which again, just to remind everybody, is not prescriptive or diagnostic. It's only meant to inspire conversation and inspire learning. And it's very much tied to the school context. And as you can see on here, we intend additional iterations of this survey over time that will help us to hone in on accomplishments that we make in adjusting our work here at school to address some of these, and I like to refer to them as opportunities. that these reports are highlighting for us, opportunities to bring new things in that can help our kids do even better at the things that we like to see them accomplish at school. We're a very good place with lots of good successes and accomplishments, as you've heard earlier tonight, but we're always looking for opportunities where we can continue to hone our practices and programs to make sure that every kid has the best opportunity that they can. And I think that's what Terrace Metrics in its core is all about.
Yeah. And I would just lastly add that the conversations that I have had with parents who've sat down and talked with their kids about the results, they've just been really positive. And they've been so grateful to have a different view. And the conversation at home has just been enriched as they just come together to talk a little bit about where the kids are overall.
And that's powerful. That's powerful.
And last but not least, I know that there have also been the questions from families about the specific questions that the kids are answering in terms of each indicator. And we continue to offer anyone interested the opportunity to come into any of our offices. The counselors can help you for sure to have a look at what those questions are if you're still curious. We are not able to share them. Again, it's a confidentiality clause. We are not able to send them. We're not able to hand over anything like that, but we certainly can welcome you in so that you can take a look at them and get an overall picture of the questions that lead into each of these indicators.
Yeah, and it's just a function of copyright and protecting the contents to the degree that they're not broadly distributed. So that's why we can't post them or send them. But again, we're happy to have you come in and review those. Also, Melissa, I think we talked about, we do look ahead now for opportunities to have parents come in and meet with us in more of a coffee setting to talk about Terrace Metrics as well. So look for those in e-notes and on the calendar in due course, and we'll find some opportunities after we've had a little bit more time to look at it ourselves for parents to come in and just talk with us about it and share their thoughts and ask their questions. So look for those coffee opportunities coming soon. All right. Shall we talk about ACE? And I think maybe we should think about how we optimize time here. But let's get the calendar for sure on the table so everybody understands what comes next.
Yeah. So again, just the big picture view into this is that we are engaged in an accreditation process that is an incredibly rich experience for our community. It is not just about compliance, which is the old method of accreditation, but instead we are really invited through the work of these two organizations, both NEASC and IB, the International Baccalaureate, to be engaged in transformation. And that transformative process is always embedded in school improvement for our kids and leaning into best practice at all times. And so what we are doing, you'll see here that we have our phases. Many of you who are following this process know that we engaged in a preparatory phase where we had, this was over the fall, well, last year, the report was put together. It was submitted in August, and in the fall, we were able to welcome the team who came and just spent time virtually. They spent time with our community, and then we're able to turn around a report for us. Now we move into this very, very critical stage, which is the internal reflection phase. It will take place for about 10 to 12 months. And so that will be done within the format of committees. There will be 5 committees. Many of you may have already seen the invite that went out. Mr. Zuflu sent that in the weekly updates and e-notes. I believe we're going to get that in.
We actually sent a special message from the director to everybody. This was a special announcement. We wanted to tease it out separately. We'll now continue reminders in other bulletins as they come out in the coming weeks. But there was a link specifically to a survey to begin to offer your talents to this process. It has multiple questions on it in terms of things you'd be willing to do, smaller things and larger things, but we need volunteers from the community so we can make sure that all stakeholder groups are represented, and it allows for students to sign up through there as well. So students, you have an opportunity to get your name on here. In fact, the very first person to sign up on the survey was a student. And so I just want to say thank you for that, for getting the ball rolling and getting those names on the list. We'll be contacting you shortly based on your answers to the survey and how you can plug into the process. And do look for weekly reminders on this as we begin to form these teams. And it's not just about being on a committee, it's also about being involved in focus groups on selected topics. It's about doing additional surveys for us on selected topics. It's about various review functions that can be smaller pieces of work, but we need everybody to step up and say what they're willing to do so that we can start forming those groups.
And what we're going to share with you tonight, just very, very quickly, is the set of learning principles that will be the core of this particular reflection phase. Our preparatory phase centered around foundation standards and a few key learning principles. Foundation standards really are the compliance elements, which are just the key foundational structures of a school that need to be in place. We are now into the transformational process, and that's really at the heart of the work that's going to happen. We will end this process in December with a report that will go to these two organizations. We will have a visit in February of 2024 that will come in a blink. And then we will, in the spring, receive the feedback as it relates to our accreditation status. So again, this is going to be short and sweet tonight. It really is to just give you kind of a big picture of the process and what these principles are, these ACE learning principles. We have structured time around this semester to allow every one of our stakeholder groups to dig more deeply into them, and we will unpack them live at school. So there will also be invitations for you to come to coffees through a variety of different venues to learn more about these. And that includes our students, who will also have these unpacked in a variety of ways. So our learning principles, are 10 of them. And again, we'll go through them right now. Our process in the next month is to choose 5 of them. And those 5 will be related to some of the key work that we are leaning into, kind of future related. And they will represent, each one of them will go to one of the committees where the deep dive reflections on where we are within the structure of these will be the work of the committee.
There you
So
go.
I'll start off and we'll alternate if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep. So the very first foundation is learning purposes. And really, that is just our curriculum. It's looking at what we have determined as our key set of what. So our knowledge, our skills, our understandings and dispositions, and how we have packaged that, aligned that across the school. So it's a very, very important learning principle. It speaks to cohesion and the clarity of what our kids learn when they come to ASW.
In 2, it's dimensions of learning. So it gets to a slightly deeper look at curriculum across transdisciplinary skills, the creative, the ethical, the interpersonal, the technological, environmental factors, physical. When you think about our core values, there's probably one that pops to mind is making the whole world our school. And so these experiences that we weave into the curriculum and how we attack those becomes the area of focus in dimensions of learning.
Our evidence of learning is really taking the role of all of the stakeholders, especially our learners, and ensuring that we have best practices in terms of how we collect evidence that they have learned, the role that they play in being able to know their own learning journey and to actually engage along the way within that and having a role. So this one is all mostly about our assessment practices, collecting our evidence.
Learning perspectives is about the complex problems and challenges that students take on. This leans into our service learning to some degree, the perspectives that we look at as we take on the deeper learning. It is connected learning and it is multidisciplinary, but it is about how we craft the way we pursue knowledge. our objective probably plays in here to a certain extent, in understanding how we design the way we learn, how we learn, and how we manage it once we've designed it.
Our learner autonomy and engagement principle, this one really is about handing over the learning to our learners. It's the role that agency plays in their lives. That the old way of teachers are the owners of the knowledge and they pour it into the brains of the kids, that is of the past. We really are about giving our kids the steering wheel and the ability to make choices along the way. So that's what this principle focuses on.
Research, reflection, and action is about how we use research, external knowledge, to connect to other communities, our future orientation. There's a bit of a technological backdrop to this, but it's the effective use of information sources, and being able to use that to pursue questions about innovation, about the things that are on the horizon. This one speaks to me, as I know everybody out there is recognizing, and particularly there are some significant things that are on the horizon right now that we're seeing emerge in technology and in the way it's used, that falls into this category. But it's also about analyzing results and becoming a mini researcher as you look at how your learning develops. How do you test a hypothesis? And how do you gather data? And how do you understand what learnings you're taking from that and what conclusions you're reaching?
Learning Principle 7 is all about the work that all of us are dedicated to in terms of inclusion, diversity, equity, belonging. We call that as part of our strategic area DEIJ. And this is just absolutely critical to our kids and how we are part of their growth and development towards just the notion of inclusion and belonging.
Governance and leadership for learning falls a little bit more into my role in the board of trustees, but we want to reflect on that and how that connects the school's learning goals to a common mission and vision, how it's organized through well-aligned structures that allow analysis, communication, all of the decision-making structures. Are they in place to support learners? And are they well connected to the learning process and fully involved and engaged in it?
And then an exciting one also, this one links to our strategic area of time and space, but the learning principle is about guiding us to be thinking about how we best use our physical environment to ensure optimal learning. It speaks to all the ways that kids can learn, even digitally, and how they are engaging in different ways of organizing their own learning through time and space to really enrich that.
And finally, the well-being, which we spent some time talking about with Dr. O tonight, but it's much broader than that because it's looking at health, ethical and honest relationships, how we encourage and continue to develop and expand community values, our core values, as well as broadly understood values of being in an active, healthy life. That reaches right back to our mission statement about changing the world for the better because we're good people in the world with the right thing in mind. Then this really speaks to that ethical heart of the organization and the things we do, like ASW for Ukraine and the partnerships that we connect with. So really looks into that community well-being aspect.
I really hope that in just even this quick view through the learning principles that come directly from NEASC, I hope it gives a sense that we have moved away from the old days of just the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and that complexity of learning and just the way that we are dedicated to ensure our kids are ready for the future that awaits them. It's really, really shown through this process. There is a real sense of sophistication and expansion and depth. And so it's exciting. And I hope that all of you, as you're watching, while it may be educator speak on some level, it's really an exciting process to learn about what goes into truly, truly creating and supporting our kids in their growth and development towards a mission that is really, again, more than just learning. but being able to learn to go and apply and transfer for a better world. In terms of our next steps, again, then we are dedicated to ensuring that everybody in our community understands the work that's getting ready to happen, and we'll have some opportunities to know what these learning principles are from the NEASC IB protocol. We will, again, be gathering our committees. If you're interested, please join. We really, really need the voice and the contribution of everyone, all of our stakeholders in the community. So please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate at all to come and ask. And then those committees, just an FYI, we will be meeting once a month, February through June. Certainly we'll get our summer break. And then we'll pick up again in August with a November end in terms of then report writing. So please reach out. We would love to have you. Again, it's an exciting process, and we're incredibly fortunate to be able to have both NEASC and IB come together through this protocol and really, really ask of ourselves, how are we and how deeply can we reflect to ensure that we're constantly moving in the direction that we set forth for ourselves.
And much of that is going to be about articulating through this process what our priorities, goals, and foci will be going forward. And this is a 5-year iterative process. So this is once in 5 years that you get the opportunity to be a participant in defining what we want to become as a school.
Yeah.
And I just want to re-emphasize that it's so critically important for a healthy, growing, thriving school to have that voice of stakeholders in these kinds of high stakes processes. So please find it in yourself to join us and participate. Find that survey in your mailbox that came within the last couple of days. It should be sitting there waiting for you to respond. Click on the link, answer the questions with whatever you're comfortable offering to us. And we just want to very much ask your participation in this and carrying it forward.
I thought that music was all about the celebration that we did it.
Well, it was the timing it was the timing that our hint was up for our timing on the show tonight. So I guess that's perfectly timed if we can. Let me take the slides off here. I don't think we had anything after that. So let me just wrap it up. Again, my sincere apologies to all of you for the technical glitches at the front end of the show. We can never predict those things, but that's the first time we've had a serious technical challenge in the 2 years that I've been doing this. So I guess there's a first time for everything, but live and learn. And at least we were able to turn it around and get it back on track. Recordings will be available. I will do a little bit of editing in those to try to take out the rough edges and make sure we get the best content for you. Please share the link with others so that they can go back and watch it at their leisure. We always have about 200 people that watch it, not on the night live, but in the recording form in the next day or two afterwards. And we appreciate that. We appreciate people's attention to that. A reminder, we have a version of another important recording back in November that we did that talked about a lot of our strategic work and our facilities decisions that are coming soon. So really, it's worth going back to that November episode and reminding yourself of the backdrop to this work that accreditation will ultimately be looking at as well. So these two go hand in hand, and we appreciate your patience and staying with us tonight till the very end. And for those who are going to watch this later, thank you for taking a look at this and staying on board with us as stakeholders going forward. Final words, Miss Melissa, and then I think we'll let everybody go.
Just another big thank you to all of our guests who joined, from Kay and Peter to Ligita and the amazing kids and Dr. O. It's such a just having all of their voices and faces just again speaks to the amazing community efforts and community connection that sits at the heart of ASW. So thank you to everyone.
Absolutely.
Thanks to all who have joined.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening from all of us here at ASW. To all of you, we love you. Stay well.